This video is sponsored by NordVPN, the fastest and most secure VPN experience out there that lets you protect up to 6 devices with just one subscription. By using the link in the description below, you can get all these amazing features for just $3.50 a month.
In the second part of this Meteor series, we'll be looking at what Meteor is exactly. We'll explore 5 areas. First, a brief overview of Meteor. We'll then look at Meteor's key technologies. We'll then look at the benefits of using Meteor, the not so good parts of using Meteor, and finally we'll end with a brief summary. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So let's start with a basic question. What is Meteor exactly? Meteor.js, incubated at Y Combinator in 2012 by the Meteor development group, is a web-based reactive JavaScript framework. The main goal of Meteor is to create single-page web apps, basically mobile and desktop applications, that run as websites instead of standalone applications, yet still contain most of the same functionality. It's written in Node.js, similar to other popular web frameworks such as Express and Socket.io. But in contrast to these other frameworks, a differentiating factor for Meteor is how fast you can get up and running, as well as the development itself. This is achieved through many of the pre-installed features such as user accounts and authentication, Meteor methods to seamlessly connect your server and the client side, NPM integration, and much more. Meteor even has its own package installer called Atmosphere.js. So you can think of Meteor as essentially a collection of libraries, add-ons, and other packages. So let's look at these key features in a little more detail. Key technologies. First of all, Meteor is a full-stack framework. This means it combines both front-end and back-end technologies. Front-end refers to the client side, the visible part of the code such as HTML and JSX. JSX is a React version of HTML. For structuring, as well as CSS or Sass, for styling. Backend refers to the server side, which, as suggested in its name, runs the mainly invisible part of the app, which transports data to the client whenever it needs it. And what also differentiates Meteor from other Node.js frameworks is how it integrates the front end and back end, which allows you to configure them both within the same front end code file. As mentioned before, this is done through something called Meteor methods, where anywhere in your client side code, you can make a request equivalent to a HTTP GET request or HTTP POST request, whereby you can either receive information through collections.find.fetch or update or initiate a collection by calling a Meteor method with meteor.call. However, Meteor doesn't actually use the HTTP protocol. Instead, it uses its own protocol for these methods called DDP, or Distributed Data Protocol, based around WebSockets. But don't worry about this, you won't actually need to know this. But unlike HTTP, this protocol uses data on the wire, meaning that data, not HTML, is sent by the server. In addition, instead of requesting data from the server every few seconds, through DDP, Meteor is able to maintain a continuous connection where data gets sent instantly according to changes within the web page. To initiate this connection for a specific collection, we run commands called publish subscribe, which we'll look at in more detail later on. This continual connection to the database means that instead of needing to constantly wait or refresh to show the new data on the database, Meteor does it automatically, in real time, even across different sessions. Meteor refers to this as full stack reactivity, where all components of the project are automatically updated when necessary. This is done through MiniMongo, a miniature version of the Mongo database situated on the client side. The reason for having this is that it cuts the latency or the time taken for data to travel from the server to the client by having most of the server functionality on the client side. This will work for 99% of the cases when you're simply adding, removing, or updating different collections. However, for those requests that require authentication, you will request it from the main database. Meteor uses MongoDB for its server side, which is essentially just a database for storing data. As you probably could have guessed from the previous section, the database you'll use with Meteor is composed of collections. For those who haven't worked with databases before, you could think of these collections as choosing between different characters in a video game. You could have a collection called players. Within this collection, various elements or items which are essentially the different players. And each of these players has different properties, such as player 1 having named James, a score of 3 points, while player 2 could have slightly different properties. This is what a typical Meteor collection looks like. So this is an example collection item. Here we have a key of ID, a value of that, just like a unique identifier for each item. We have properties such as name and score. Here we have the other 2 items. And as mentioned, it consists of key value pairs, which is basically a JavaScript object. In your typical Meteor project, you're going to be working with a lot of different folders, and you need to pay special attention to where you put what. And despite looking quite intimidating, it's actually quite simple. So at the top we have our main project folder. We then have our 3 files for our client side. Then in imports we have our UI. Then we have our media in our public folder. We have our server, of course, in server folder. We have a special file called package.json where we have all of our packages. You're also going to work heavily on terminal for 2 main reasons. One, to query your database, and second, to manage your packages, to install and remove packages. And just for quick advice, because you can install so many different tools on your command line, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Moving on to the benefits, As mentioned, the prime benefit of Meteor is the ease of installation, as well as the speed of development, as well as prototyping. Another key benefit is available installs at Atmosphere.js, as well as a npm integration for those packages you can't install on Atmosphere. Meteor projects are also quite easy to maintain because of the lack of intricate code files. It's also quite simple to learn. All you need to know is JavaScript, JSX, which if you know HTML is actually quite easy to learn, and just CSS or another styling language that compiles into CSS. And of course, full stack reactivity that allows for real-time editing and fast development, as well as instant changes on the browser. So now for the disadvantages. First, Meteor has limited front-end capabilities. You can only choose between Angular and React or Meteor's own front-end framework called Blaze. The backend is even more limited, as there's no other option apart from MongoDB. For those that prefer SQL databases, unfortunately, Meteor does not support them yet. Also, because Meteor is not as popular as other web frameworks, there isn't loads of information out there. However, if you do decide to use Meteor, check out the docs because they're an extremely valuable resource. Deployment can also be somewhat of a hassle, especially with the lack of hosting providers, which is currently limited to Heroku, Meteor Galaxy, and a few others. For those looking to develop static content websites, there are plenty of better options to choose from, as Meteor was designed for large multi-route web apps. In summary, this was a very brief intro to Meteor, so please make sure to do your own research and be confident that this is the framework you wish to use, as it's quite difficult to transfer your work later on. If you do end up choosing Meteor, make sure to check out the rest of this course, as well as the great talks Meteor provides, which you can find in the description below. Trust me, you'll find these extremely useful when you get into specific and really annoying problems. So that was a brief intro into Meteor. Hope to see you in the next video.